I tested a zero torque putter against a traditional heel shafted putter, and one metric told me everything about why zero torque works. I've been looking into zero torque putters recently and finally decided to pull the trigger on a TaylorMade Spider. The most obvious difference between a zero torque and traditional putter is where the shaft meets the head, directly above the center of gravity versus near the heel. But how exactly does that impact putter mechanics? If we take a heel shafted putter and lay it down on a table, it hangs toe side down because the center of gravity is far from the axis of rotation. When you repeat this with a zero torque putter, there is no toe hang because the rotation point is centered on the putter's head. And when a player takes a stroke, the intent of the zero torque putter is to follow a much straighter and more symmetrical path with less face twist, higher probability of a square face at contact, and more consistent putting. With a heel shafted putter, timing must be perfect to get the face square to the target. But does the zero torque putter actually do what it claims to? I tested this with real world data from PuttrLab. So I opened the app, configured my session with 10 putts and an 8-second interval between putts and 4-second recording duration, then tagged my first session as a Spider tour. I started by recording 10 putts with my old heel shafted putter, then 10 putts with my new zero torque. Let's see what the data from PuttrLab shows. The tempo with my old putter was slightly higher at 1.71 to 1 compared to 1.66 to 1 with the zero torque, but this difference is pretty much a wash. Ideally, tempo hovers around 2 to 1, something I'm actively working on using feedback from PuttrLab. One thing that caught me off guard was the face angle. I expected this to be closer to square with the zero torque, but the data show that the heel shafted putter averaged closer to 0 degrees. One thing to notice here is that the zero torque consistently stayed between 0 to 1 degrees closed on most putts, so while the average was not as expected, the consistency of the zero torque still plays in its favor. And on average, I accelerated through most of my putts with both putters. No meaningful difference here, which tells me that this part of my stroke is reasonably consistent regardless of what putter I'm using. But the most interesting and least surprising is the path symmetry. Remember that one of the claims of a zero torque putter was that your path would be much straighter and as a result much more repeatable. Well, that's exactly what the data showed. My path symmetry with the zero torque was lower and more consistent compared to the heel shafted putter. And lastly, the contact point on the zero torque averaged nearly dead center, while the Spider Tour averaged about a millimeter towards the toe. Not surprisingly, the most toe-sided putts resulted in misses to the right. Overall, the zero torque putter delivered exactly what it promised. A straighter path that is more symmetrical, resulting in a more consistent contact point and face angle. If you want to start tracking metrics that matter and improve your putting stroke so you can sink more putts, visit PuttrLab.com and subscribe to our channel.